Following Muhammad's death in 632. A number of his companions who knew the Quran by heart were killed in the Battle of Yamama by Musaylimah, the first caliph. Abu Bakr, d. 634. Subsequently decided to collect the book in one volume so that it could be preserved. Zayd ibn Thabit, d. 655. Was the person to collect the Quran since he used to write the divine inspiration for Allah's apostle. Thus, a group of scribes, most importantly Zayd, collected the verses and produced a hand-written manuscript of the complete book. The manuscript according to Zayd remained with Abu Bakr until he died. Zayd's reaction to the task and the difficulties in collecting the Quranic material from parchments, palm leaf stalks, thin stones, collectively known as suhuf, and from men who knew it by heart is recorded in earlier narratives. In 644, Muhammad's widow Hafsa bint Umar was entrusted with the manuscript until the third caliph, Uthman ibn Affan, requested the standard copy from her. In about 650, Uthman, d. 656, began noticing slight differences in pronunciation of the Quran as Islam expanded beyond the Arabian Peninsula into Persia, the Levant, and North Africa. In order to preserve the sanctity of the text, he ordered a committee headed by Zayd to use Abu Bakr's copy and prepare a standard text of the Quran. Thus, within 20 years of Muhammad's death, the Quran was committed to written form. That text became the model from which copies were made and promulgated throughout the urban centers of the Muslim world, and other versions are believed to have been destroyed. The present form of the Quran text is accepted by Muslim scholars to be the original version, compiled by Abu Bakr. According to Shia, Ali ibn Abi Talib, d. 661, compiled a complete version of the Quran shortly after Muhammad's death. The order of this text differed from that gathered later during Uthman's era in that this version had been collected in chronological order. Despite this, he made no objection against the standardized Quran and accepted the Quran in circulation. Other personal copies of the Quran might have existed, including Ibn Mas'ud's and Ubay ibn Ka'b's codex, none of which exist today. The Quran most likely existed in scattered written form during Muhammad's lifetime. Several sources indicate that during Muhammad's lifetime a large number of his companions had memorized the revelations. Early commentaries and Islamic historical sources support the above-mentioned understanding of the Quran's early development. University of Chicago professor Fred Donner states that here was a very early attempt to establish a uniform consonantal text of the Quran from what was probably a wider and more varied group of related texts in early transmission. After the creation of this standardized canonical text, earlier authoritative texts were suppressed, and all extant manuscripts, despite their numerous variants, seem to date to a time after this standard consonantal text was established. Although most variant readings of the text of the Quran have ceased to be transmitted, some still are. There has been no critical text produced on which a scholarly reconstruction of the Quranic text could be based. Historically, controversy over the Quran's content has rarely become an issue, although debates continue on the subject. Quote, in 1972, in a mosque in the city of Sana'a, Yemen, manuscripts were discovered that were later proved to be the most ancient Quranic text known to exist at the time. The Sana'a manuscripts contain palimpsests, a manuscript page from which the text has been washed off to make the parchment reusable again. a practice which was common in ancient times due to the scarcity of writing material. However, the faint washed-off underlying text, scriptio inferior, is still barely visible and believed to be pre-Uthmanic Quranic content, while the text written on top, scriptio superior, is believed to belong to Uthmanic times. Studies using radiocarbon dating indicate that the parchments are dated to the period before 671 CE, with a 99% probability. The German scholar Gerd.A.Pühen has been investigating these Quran fragments for years. His research team made 35,000 microfilm photographs of the manuscripts, which he dated to the early part of the 8th century. Pühen has not published the entirety of his work, but noted unconventional verse orderings, minor textual variations, and rare styles of orthography. He also suggested that some of the parchments were palimpsests which had been reused. Pühen believed that this implied an evolving text as opposed to a fixed one. In 2015, fragments of a very early Quran, dating back to 1,370 years earlier, were discovered in the library of the University of Birmingham, England. According to the tests carried out by the Oxford University Radiocarbon Accelerator Unit, with a probability of more than 95%, the parchment was from between 568 and 645 inches. The manuscript is written in Hijazi script, an early form of written Arabic. This is possibly the earliest extant exemplar of the Quran, but as the tests allow a range of possible dates, it cannot be said with certainty which of the existing versions is the oldest. Saudi scholar Saad al-Sahan has expressed doubt over the age of the fragments as they contain dots and chapter separators that are believed to have originated later. However, Joseph E.B. Lombard of Brandeis University has written in the Huffington Post in support of the dates proposed by the Birmingham scholars. Lombard notes that the discovery of a Quranic text that may be confirmed by radiocarbon dating as having been written in the first decades of the Islamic era, while presenting a text substantially in conformity with that traditionally accepted, reinforces a growing academic consensus that many Western skeptical and revisionist theories of Quranic origins are now untenable in the light of empirical findings. Whereas, on the other hand, counterpart accounts of Quranic origins within classical Islamic traditions stand up well in the light of ongoing scientific discoveries.